Welcome to the Nest podcast, and we'll be going over 3 segments today, starting off with Future All-Stars with Daniel Foster, followed by Coach's Corner with Mr. Atley, and finishing off the show with my top 10 picks for the NBA draft. Let's move on to the first segment. Welcome to the Nest podcast. Special guest Daniel Foster, and this is the segment Future All-Stars.
Thanks for having me.
Alright, so with being a part of the NBA Global Academy, I've heard something very special, I guess, or very select. My first question to you is, how did you get into basketball in the first place?
Pretty much just grew up in the sport. My dad definitely played when he was growing up, so it was pretty much just pushed into playing domestic at a young age, and then pretty much just went on from there.
Did you look up to someone like your father or anyone else?
No, he was playing before my time, so I didn't get to see much of that, but definitely just watched a bit of NBA when I was younger, and picked out my favourite player, LeBron. So.
And do you have anyone that you liked in the past from NBA? That's not playing anymore?
Back in the day, no, not too much. I kind of just stuck with the current NBA players. Didn't watch too much of the old stuff.
All right. What has been some highlights of your career?
So just recently was fortunate enough to make the state team, and didn't come away with the gold, but that was alright. But that was good to make. As I said, the Global Academy, stuff like that. A few camps in Canberra, and just.
Have you been to any camps in America? Just asking.
I went to one in March, did a camp there, and then year before I had one as well, and then looking forward to going to America in probably next month.
And so, what schools are you interested into going to in America?
Well, obviously, like the big time ones, but that's obviously probably a bit unrealistic. Pretty much just anyone that will offer, and anyone puts their foot forward.
Might be a tough question to ask, but do you have any scholarships from any schools, high school or college?
Got some interest from a few schools, so that's always good to have going into year 12 and stuff.
And what do you want your future to be, like with inside or out of through basketball, really?
Probably just take it as far as I can, whether that be like, I don't know, youth league, Siebel, whatever it is, whatever level, just try and play as much as I can.
I'm guessing your dream is to play NBA, I'm guessing?
Look, that's probably not that high, probably just like one of the goals to play for Australia or something like that. But whatever comes.
And so how'd you get into the Global Academy just?
One day I just got a phone call from the head coach over there just randomly, and then he just offered me a trip to go to America with him. And pretty surprising, put me on the spot, but obviously accepted it.
How was the trip?
Good fun, good experience. Played against some good American high school players, so that's always good to get some exposure and play against some good level players.
And what places did you go around? Just
we're in San Antonio for the whole trip, just playing at high schools and the Final Four stadium. So yeah.
So that would be good to see, good to witness. So how many times do you train a week?
Oh, jeepers. Right now, I think it's like 15 hours a week or something like that. So I don't know how many trainings that is, but it's quite a bit at the moment. So
very intense, I'm guessing.
Yeah, look, try to take a few of them off, but
just quick question. So your strengths and your weaknesses.
I
can see you're a really good driver from seeing some highlights.
Yeah, I'm more of a 3-point specialist. I just like to get teammates involved as much as I can, and just whatever try to do to get the win, like whether it be scoring or passing or whatever it is.
And what are you looking to improve in that?
look, shooting's probably not my strength at the moment, so hopefully I can get a few reps up and improve that. And then maybe just like ball handling and stuff like that. Always looking to improve.
Coming to the last questions now. So have you faced any struggles in your journey, or how far you've gone with your basketball?
Yeah, well, getting cut from a few teams is always pretty hard to take, but you just got to look on to the next team that you could possibly make and try and bounce back from it. So that's definitely hard.
This might be a tough question to ask as well. Did you ever feel like quitting at one point with getting cut so many times, or getting cut a few times?
Probably not quitting, but just, I don't know, you just get a bit burnt out a little bit with all the training you do and stuff like that. So you just got to try and find the breaks that you can get and take some time off so you can get your passion back for it. And
this is the last question. If you had any advice for some young players upcoming with potential for basketball, what would you say?
Probably just take the feedback that you get, whether that's from like coaches, parents, teammates, and try to work on that. Don't try and just be strong-minded and play the way you think you should play to try and make all the teams and stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably my advice.
Thank you, Daniel, for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Welcome to Coach's Corner of the Nest podcast with special guest Mr. Atley. Hello, Mr. Atley.
How you going?
I'm good. Welcome to the Coach's Corner.
Thanks.
For being such a prestigious basketball coach and well known in Victoria, my first question to you is, what got you into the game of basketball?
So I actually started playing basketball when I was 6 years old, when I briefly lived in Mildura. And when I got into it there, I was immediately hooked. The first game I ever played, I scored the only basket for my team, and from then on, I just that's all I ever wanted to do. I always had a basketball in my hands from then on.
Also, did you look up to anyone when you were younger as a player or a coach from NBA, NBL, or other?
Absolutely. So I had a few people I looked up to. Obviously, the biggest one of all was Michael Jordan. He was everything to me when it came to basketball. I just watched as many games as his as I could, and just absolutely loved the way he played the game and the whole, I suppose, the whole aura around him. Within Australian basketball, I really looked up to really a lot of guys who played at Siebel level who were playing at my junior club at Nunawading Spectres, and particularly the imports that were at that club used to go to their games and really look at those games and always want to be part of that.
Okay. That's interesting to hear about. With that, how many years have you been coaching so far?
Well, I actually started coaching when I was 16 years old. So when I was 16 years old, I was involved in coaching junior kids, like younger guys. And when I was in year 11 at my school, I actually coached our intermediate team as a year 11 student, and we ended up winning the state title. So that was when I started coaching. I coached a lot through my playing career at junior levels. And then in about, I suppose in the early 2000s, I took a break from the game, and when I suppose I lived overseas, and when I came back to Australia and I got a job at Marsland in 2009, a couple of years later I actually got back into coaching and started coaching youth league for Bulleen Boomers.
Yeah. And now you're known for coaching the first team for Marsland. Just wondering, was there anyone that inspired you to be a coach, or was it just that after you got that win, did you feel that you felt really accomplished and you wanted to keep going?
Coaching was always something I was quite drawn to because I always thought the game. I always liked to think. I always thought of myself as when I was a player, someone who wasn't necessarily gifted with great speed or great athleticism. So I had to be smart in the way I played the game. So I think that made it a really easy transition for me into coaching because I always thought of the game in a different way to those really gifted players.
So with coming to with coaching, what have been some highlights that have come up, and did you have any struggles during your coaching career so far, and did that come to making you think that you might want to take a break for a bit or stop in general?
Sure. So obviously I've had some great successes in my coaching career. Had some ups and some downs, but my successes really have been just my ability to be involved in really high level basketball, which has been I feel has been a real achievement. Being involved in CBL programs and youth league programs, and currently being the director of coaching at Hume City Broncos, I feel have been great achievements. In terms of winning, I've had a great success here at Marcelin, winning the 2016 national title, which, as quite underdogs for that tournament, to win that was just an absolute thrill. Also winning the state title in 2015, along with multiple AGS and Marist titles. I feel I've been involved in some great success. In regards to, I suppose, down times, no more so than when we lost the AGSV final only a few months ago, where obviously we were probably fancied and favourites, and whatever could have gone wrong that day went wrong, and that was, you take the highs and lows out of coaching on days like that.
After hearing that, how did you overcome the struggles of that, and how?
Well, I don't think we have overcome it yet, to be honest. I think we probably won't overcome it until we win again, and until we get that trophy back, and to hold it for 7 years in a row, and then to lose it is, I suppose, all good things have to come to an end. But with the group that we have moving forward and the talent we have in all our year levels, I'm really confident that we can have that trophy back in our cabinet this time next year.
To go on with the topic of the 2018 AGS basketball finals, what were some players that stood out, or some highlights of that match that really came and felt the best part of Marcelin?
I thought really our fighting spirit, we really weren't playing well. We had a really rough start to the game, being down 8-0, 14-3, shooting poorly, not executing, missing free throws. The first half was really a complete disaster, to be honest. But our ability to really fight back in that second half, and in my opinion, I really thought that we were about to completely take over that game, and credit to Ivanhoe, they were able to steady the ship when things weren't going their way and win the game. But we had some great fighting spirit, and guys like Nathan Polsma and Drew Giddens really stepped up that day, and but unfortunately it wasn't enough.
What will be some changes that come for next season after that loss that you think that the team can improve on?
I think really it comes down to our complacency and just not taking for granted how good we are. I think that our training sessions probably weren't as intense, or as we weren't as committed to our training sessions as we probably could be, and essentially that's the thing that cost us in the end. Also, we may need to look a little bit at our offensive structures. The fact that we're going to have a lot of Year 12s in next year's team, and our ability to stretch the floor, and being quite a big team and being quite an athletic team, our ability to use that size and athleticism to our advantage moving forward.
And my last question to you, Mr. Atley, is what do you think of Daniel Foster as a player?
Oh, my boy Daniel Foster. Daniel's an extraordinarily talented player. He has, I suppose in regards to natural athleticism, he has a lot of it. He's 6'3", point guard who has long arms and the ability to I suppose do some special things in the game. He's an elite defender. His ability to I suppose challenge the opposition is second to none, and his offensive game is improving I suppose constantly. He's shown great upside in the last 12 months and his ability to improve a hell of a lot. He needs to continue to attack and use his athleticism on the ring and continue to develop his jump shot. But I certainly see some real positives moving forward for Daniel and the possibility of having a professional career.
Thank you, sir, for being on the podcast, and that's all I've got.
Anytime, thanks.
Welcome back to the Nest podcast for our final segment of today's podcast. We'll be going over my top 10 picks for this year's NBA draft. With the number 1 pick, I feel that the Phoenix Suns will select DeAndre Ayton from the University of Arizona. This center has been incredible this year, being able to finish inside with quite a few defenders around him, even drawing fouls here and there. But it wasn't only on the offense that he killed it, but on defense. With the number 2 pick, I feel the Sacramento Kings will select the international player Luka Doncic, being seen all over the media with highlight plays, with him using his excellent handles and shooting ability. This international player playing for Real Madrid has a lot of potential. With the number 3 pick, I feel that the Atlanta Hawks will select Marvin Bagley III from the University of Duke. This big man was also having a great season, but fell short from the final of March Madness. With the 4th pick, I feel that the Memphis Grizzlies will select Michael Porter Jr., the small forward from the University of Missouri. This small forward did miss out on a bit of the season with a bad back injury, which led him to only play 3 games of the season. With the 5th pick, I feel that Dallas Mavericks will select Jared Jackson Jr. from Michigan State University. With the 6th pick, Orlando Magic will select Wendell Carter Jr. from the University of Duke. With the 7th pick, Chicago Bulls will select Mohamed Bamba. This center was an elite shot blocker for this year's season for the University of Texas. This big man has shown us that he can easily defend the rim and on the offensive side make a few threes with his good jump shot, which he's working on for most of this draft coming up. And with his finishing inside, with the 8th pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers will select Colin Sexton from the University of Alabama. This point guard has shown that he can lead a team with this season going as far as I thought in March Madness. Really, at one point, seeing that their team went down to only having 3 players on the court against a 5-man team, really. And even though they only had 3 against 5, they still scored on the offense and did a few stops on the defensive side of the ball. With the 9th pick, the New York Knicks will select Trae Young. This combo guard from the University of Oklahoma is an amazing shooter and great ball handler and dribbler and has great passing IQ. This year he's been killing with stats that have always been double digits with points, assists as well. Having great games with quite a few 20 to 40 point games and 1 or 2 20 assist games. And this is something that the universities have not, or college basketball has not seen in for quite a while. But this man is a deadly shooter, even from quite far away, not even from even further than NBA distance, making a few shots from 30 feet and more. Maybe might be the next Steph Curry, which you can all see now, 2-time MVP and multiple-time All-Star and championship winner. And with the final pick, or the 10th pick of this year's draft, I feel that the Philadelphia 76ers will select Miles Bridger from Michigan State University. Thank you for listening. This is the end of the Nest podcast. Till next time.